In the shadowy corridors of global power, there exists a business of deception and exploitation. United States has one of the strongest economies worldwide, but hidden behind its success are stories of how it takes advantages of weaker and poorer countries. How America tricks these poor countries or exploit their weak economies. This means the United States is powerful because it traps and steals resources from these small countries, while people in these countries still live in poverty. America controls their economies with its own economic strategies. Some people who were part of this unfair system have spoken about it in a book where they confess what they did. This is the story of how the United States, wielding its economic might as a weapon, exploits nations across the globe. And at the heart of this tale lies a man named John Perkins and his book Confession of an Economic Hitman. Hello and welcome to our YouTube channel. If you are new to our channel, do consider subscribing. And if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up. And now, let me tell you how US exploit other countries according to John Perkins' book, The Confession of Economic Hitman. John Perkins, an American economist born in 1945, wrote a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman in 2004. In this book, he exposed secret schemes within the United States and revealed how the country plans to give loans to poor nations. If these poor countries refuse the loans, the economic hitman at the direction of the American government cause chaos and disorder in these nations. Perkins wasn't always an economic hitman. During his training, Perkins was told the job was highly confidential and he shouldn't even tell his family. Perkins noticed that in his company, many employees claimed to be engineers but lacked the usual equipment and tools. Over time, the United States shifted from using weapons and its military to using economic hitmen to achieve its goals. These hitmen are hired into high positions in large American companies, supported by the US government and the CIA, and tasked with economic analysis and planning. Let's talk about some historical events when the US made similar plan in countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, and others. We'll see where they succeeded, where they resorted to violence, and where they thought in time. In Iran, for example, Prime Minister Dr. Mossadegh declared all Iranian petroleum as national property. At that time, an American agent stirred up unrest in Iran, leading to Mossadegh's removal from office due to public pressure. Despite having vast oil reserves and not needing foreign aid, Iran saw projects initiated by the US in the 1960s. However, in 1979, after a revolution, Iran's Shah was forced to leave the country and the US couldn't impose its will on Iran as it had hoped. Later, the United States started showing interest in Indonesia. John Perkins worked for an American company that offered Indonesia a project to generate electricity. Even though Indonesia already had enough electricity, the US wanted to get involved. Perkins was told his job was crucial and he needed to make predictions to justify building more power plants. Perkins did as he was told, and he quickly got promoted. The US succeeded in trapping Indonesia in debt. The Panama Canal connects the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. In 1903, US President Roosevelt sent troops to Panama, which was then part of Colombia. The US Army captured a local leader and declared Panama independent. The US imposed its own government and controlled areas around the canal. Everything in these areas, like shops and restaurants, were considered American property and didn't follow Panama's rule. In 1972, John Perkins went to Panama with projects for energy, transportation, and agriculture. He met with General Omar, who knew about America's plans and wanted Panama to develop without US interference. Perkins realized they would get the contract, but then General Omar was killed to ensure their plan succeeded. The relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia was good. The US used to buy most of its stuff from Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries. American oil companies also helped Saudi Arabia get oil, but in 1972, due to the high Israel war, the US supported Israel. All Arab countries stopped selling oil to the US. This embargo lasted a few months and caused big problems for the US economy. The price of the oil went up a lot. This showed the US how important Saudi Arabia was to its economy, because the US depend a lot on oil. So the US started playing game with Saudi Arabia. They made a deal. Saudi Arabia would sell oil to the US, and the US would use the money called petrodollars to the development projects in Saudi Arabia. It was up to the people like Perkins to make predictions that made Saudi Arabia rely on the US. This way, the US gained control over Saudi Arabia. After the agreement, Saudi Arabia got support from the United States globally. The US thought they could also control Iraq through this plan. The terms of the deal with Iraq were the same as those with Saudi Arabia. The US saw Iraq as valuable because it had plenty of water along with the oil. They believed controlling Iraq meant controlling the entire Islamic world. But they soon realized Saddam Hussein wasn't interested in working with the US. In August 1990, Iraq attacked Kuwait, and the US President George Bush Sr. blamed Saddam Hussein for this attack and sent the US Army to Kuwait. The Iraqi army was defeated, and the US couldn't make a deal with the Iraq. The US also faced setbacks in Venezuela and Vietnam. They tried to manipulate South American countries too, like Ecuador. They even assassinated Ecuador's president, Jaime Arados. In 2005, the new president of Ecuador changed oil contract with the US, reducing US control. By 2015, Ecuador started selling oil to China instead of the US. The US also interfered in Libya because US didn't like Gaddafi government. Gaddafi had support of the Soviet Union, but after the collapse of the Soviet Union, they rejected attempts to restore relations, and eventually Gaddafi was gone too. The US carried out drone attacks in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, and other places, killing 62 victims in 2015, though the actual number could be much bigger. Economic hitmen still exist in big companies and NGOs today, but their methods have changed. The information in this video is from John Perkins' perspective, not the research of Let Me Tell You. It's based on the claims from the book Confession of an Economic Hitman, which shed light on how the world's top superpower exploits poor countries. And that's it for today's episode of Let Me Tell You. I hope you find our videos informative and interesting. Let us know about your thoughts in the comments below. We value your feedback and want to hear your thoughts on this topic. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our episodes. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Let Me Tell You.